welcome you. I'm Jeffrey Cohen. For those of you who haven't met yet, I'm the Dean of Humanities here. Welcome to the culminating portion of Humanities Week. And I've appreciated seeing so many of you at the various Humanities Week events. I just think it's been the best Humanities Week ever. It's been so much fun, so exhausting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it being over, but it's been wonderful. But I will tell you, my favorite part of Humanities Week is what we do today, because we invite our alumni back, talk to our students, meet with them, and tell a little bit about their stories. What is it that they did while here that set them up for success in the future? And we'll say we've got a couple of audiences going on here. So one is all of us here in the room, and I'm really grateful for everyone who showed up today. Then there are those who are listening in online. And also we record these and then we put them up on YouTube, and you would be surprised how many thousands of people listen in. And here, we're one of the few universities that actually bring our humanities alumni back in order to talk about their path and their skills. Okay, enough about that, enough about me. We're gonna get right to it. And I'm really sorry that I'm not able to give each of you the very long introductions that you all. But in order to keep things moving quickly, so as I said, we can get to the more interactive part. What I'm going to ask you to do, please briefly, is to simply introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. Take us back a step. Tell us what you majored in when you were here at ASU. And then reflect for a moment on the relationship between what you did here at ASU and what you're doing now, in a way that maybe will help students who are trying to think through, how it is studying English or history or you name it, can turn into a career that maybe is related or maybe isn't. So I figured if we each took about 4 minutes for these kinds of brief introductions, and then we'll get into a Q&A, that would be great. So Chad, if you wouldn't mind beginning, and for all of you on the panel, if you wouldn't mind talking toward that box right there, that will make sure that those who are online can hear you as well. So over to you.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully that's not enough. Thank you for coming. My name is Chad Dietz. I am a metadata librarian for special collections here at ASU. I graduated in 2017 with degrees in history and political science. My love really was history. I sort of fell into a double major because I stupidly forgot to check my course list and got to the end of my program and realized that I had 3 language courses that could not be taken concurrently. So I had to extend by a year and some change, and I was 2 courses shy of a double, so I got a double. But work that's relevant to this career. I spent 7 years working in law enforcement records management. Then I worked at the State of Arizona Library, which is different from Arizona State Library. But I was there for 2 years and then came back to ASU in fall of 2019. I've had a couple of different roles since I came back, but what I'm doing now is I work with our acquisitions and metadata team. This is the team at the library that's responsible for purchasing, processing, and describing all of the library's collections. And I work specifically on the description piece of that. So I work with our team so that all of our stuff, both print materials and online digitized materials, are described in ways that are human-centered and respectful of the communities that they reflect, but also accurate. I also work with our institutional repositories. So Keep, which is our repository where faculty research that's open access can be made available, and Prism, which houses digitized library collections. A lot of stuff. But essentially, I feel like there are so many humanities skills that come as part of that work. I feel like this is a terrible example for academics, but it certainly makes the point. When you're in a public library space, someone will come into you and they'll say, I want to find that one book with the red cover. And 9 times out of 10, that book is yellow, by the way. But we have to sort of probe into that. We have to use our critical thinking skills. We have to meet them where they're at, sort of empathize with them as people and say, okay, what are you trying to figure out here? Give me some more information, and we will work together to help you find what you need. Our role is really, in the library space, it's really about connecting. We connect people with information that they're looking for. We connect them with other people. And certainly in modern times, we also connect them with things like workspaces or technology support. But if you have something that you're trying to build or launch off the ground, we want to help you find it. So I think the other thing we were sort of talking as panelists before this, we're storytellers. So getting into a little bit about the work that I do specifically, if I'm describing something like a photograph where there's no text on the object, I have to sort of tell the story of why that thing is important. If we may or may not know what the image is, right? If it's a person, we might know who they are. If it's a location, we might know where it is, but we might choose to emphasize the location over the person depending on what the context is in the story around that object. That's, I think I could cover.
Great, thank you. Darren.
Hi, my name is Darren. I am currently working at a national insurance broker as a financial underwriter and analyst. So basically what that means is working with employer groups across the state of Arizona, as well as nationally, some even internationally, 1,000 and up, examining their large claims data. So you go into a hospital, you fall off a cliff, I've done that all. As well as helping set medical or dental budgets for those groups, getting into the room with C-suite or HR managers and talking to them about what the best financial insurance carrier would be for them, HSA bank would be for them, things of that nature. In 2015, I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts in Creative Writing. So superficially does not seem like any overlap at all, but actually there is quite a bit of overlap there, because what we really do in academics, but in humanities in particular, is looking at the data on the page, right? We see it as a story or a narrative or fiction, if you will, what I was doing. But really what it is are pattern recognition, memorization. You're looking at motifs, themes, sometimes syncing one book to the next, right? Looking at, for example, I was in a class called American Losers. What links all of those books together, right? What are those narratives? Why is this, what does this failure tell us? What do these successes after failure tell us? That can all be translated into actual concrete numerical data. That can be translated into claims of sepsis at a certain hospital, and letting your, individual HR or C-suite employees know, hey, this hospital in your network has a huge pattern of sepsis claims. We may want to avoid that. We may want to look at this insurance carrier in order to avoid this network at this hospital, anything like that. So, I didn't maybe as long as my patriot over here, but that's the brief of it. So we can get into further.
I'm just pointing out how many interesting words are coming up. Metadata, sepsis, falling off a cliff. The humanities let you do almost anything.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Newsome. I have forgotten everything about myself. I work right now as the manager of marketing and communication at the Arizona Center for Medieval and Renaissance Studies, which is a beautiful mouthful. It is here on campus. It is a research center for modern studies, which includes, culture, art, literature, and how that relates to our present moment. I also teach creative writing here at ASU. So I have sort of a weird, fingers in both worlds, I guess. I received my Bachelor's of Arts in Creative Writing from ASU in 2015, and apparently didn't get enough of it, so I came back the following year for an MFA in Creative Writing, which I finished in 2019. In that sort of span of time, I've worked at a couple of different units and done really interesting things at ASU. But between those two things, I worked at a branding agency as a content developer and a marketer, which set me up for this, this role in marketing old stuff for new reasons. And it's been really lovely. I think kind of to Darren's point, Darren was in my creative writing cohort and I haven't seen her since then. So yeah. This is really lovely. But to that point, being able to tell a story, being able to get someone's attention to hear that story, and being able to present it in a way that is not just persuasive, but like informative, emotive, engaging, is the key to everything I have done, whether that be marketing, cool self-cleaning manufacturing parts, to teaching somebody how race in the Byzantine Empire informs their idea of our societies today, right? So we have to be able to do that kind of storytelling in order, to keep anyone's attention in any field, regardless of
Chris, without stealing any thunder, I do believe you win the prize for having come the farthest. You arrived here from Rome. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, I'm staying with my mom and dad in Chandler, so to measure it that way, it's not that impressive. But yeah, I did come in from Rome. So I live in Rome. I'm a foreign correspondent for CBS News. I report basically if it's outside of the United States, that's my remit. I studied art history and Italian. Those were my two degrees from ASU. All my professors are here right now. I'm so happy to see them. And it's the perfect job for somebody who studied Italian and art history. I mean, really, I get to live in Italy. So obviously I'm speaking Italian a lot. And half the stories I do, especially earlier in my career, were on culture and art, of some kind. And so my background in art history really came in handy, and it still does. I mean, just by virtue of living in Italy, there are so many arts and culture stories that pop up all the time. And so it gives me a leg up. So I think the applications are kind of obvious in my case, which definitely wouldn't have occurred to me when I was a student here. I wasn't thinking that far ahead at all. It just kind of worked out. So does that answer all the questions?
It does. Maybe a word about how you moved from art history and Italian into journalism, which is not something a lot of students.
I mean,
necessarily do.
one of the great things about journalism is that you don't have to have a degree to do it. I started practicing journalism. I mean, we all do in a way, just by practicing our freedom of speech that's enshrined in the Constitution. But I did realize at a certain point that I wanted to write about things beyond art history. In fact, I was kind of going down that route in academia. I thought I wanted to be a professor at one point until this blog that I started with a couple of friends of mine who are here as well really got me thinking outside of that box. Got me wanting to write about other things that weren't strictly part of art history or Italian. These two things that I felt like I was qualified to write about. And then I realized, well, just call myself a journalist. I can write about whatever the hell I want to write about. And so I kind of shifted gears and eventually made my way back to grad school. And I went to grad school and got a degree in journalism. But to be perfectly honest, you don't really need that. You really don't, not to get into journalism. Most of what you learn in journalism is on the job training. But yeah, that empowered me to apply all these skills in Italian and art history, all of my life experiences. It just came up with, it was the vehicle that enabled me to take all of this confusion, all this adventuring that I've been doing and turn it into a job. And I really credit ASU for giving me the equipment to see those opportunities there. One of the things I love about listening to everyone who's spoken here so far is just how interesting you are. None of you seem driven by money. We all seem driven by our curiosity, but there's money in that, I mean, that's a real tool. And I think that's probably what, brought us all here is realizing that at some point that there's actual currency in curiosity.
Well, thanks, Chris, for being a tough act to follow. I don't live in Phoenix. My name is Sharon Egg. I'm an English professor. There had to be one of us up here. I'm an English professor at Estrella Mountain Community College, which is way out west in Avondale, in case you don't know. I teach English 101, 102, and Children's Lit. So I'm getting the freshest of the freshest students coming through, which is honestly really exciting because we get into a lot of critical thinking, we get into a lot of storytelling, and that is one of the things that bridges what I'm doing. I'm also a writer, freelance writer. I'm also a narrator. I'm also a color commentary for roller derby. So go bombshells. So I've got a lot of things going on at the time, which is great for me because my attention span is maybe like that. So, but one of the things that I really loved about being here at ASU was the fact that, first of all, it built my confidence. I was a very non-traditional student. I just graduated with my master's in 2023. My bachelor's was in 2021. So I was a 40-something co-ed. And it was a very different experience. And it was frightening and it was liberating and exhilarating all at the same time. And I'm really glad I did it. It's opened up a lot of doors for me. And the connections that I've made here have helped me. We'll kind of get into that later. But some of the skills that I've had, I use a lot in my classroom. So I was able to take a podcasting class. I use that in the classroom. I took a film conference class with the director of my program, which was instrumental because now I use that in my 102 class, literature and the film adaptation. And we do a whole semester surrounding just that. So it's been really exciting to pull some of those things that I've done from here and push them into the classroom because it's looking to be pretty engaging for the students. And it's hard to keep students engaged. I'm sure that you probably agree with that statement. It's sometimes hard to look around and go, what am I doing? Is this interesting? Is this not interesting? Why am I bored? Right? So it's somewhat up to me, it's up to both of us as a team to work together to be engaging. And that's what I do, trying to pull those items from what I've done here into that classroom.
If Aubrey looks familiar to you, I've decided he's the face of the humanities. Do you realize you're on the Shippers webpage, the Humanities Unified webpage? We use you a lot. We don't pay you anything.
I'll have to check that out. I'll do some
Just stop being photogenic and stop using it.
after the event. So hello everyone. Thank you for coming out to the panel. My name is Aubrey Fair. I currently serve as the collections assistant at the Tempe History Museum, a few minutes down the road on Rural and Southern. I began my ASU enrollment in 2018. And I graduated with a bachelor's in history in December 2021, a semester early. I also graduated from Barrett the Honors College, and I completed an honors thesis. I was able to combine talking about my favorite soccer team and medieval history, which was great. Love doing that. And then soon after that, the following fall, I returned to Shippers and did my graduate program. In fall of 2022, graduated in May of 2024 with a master's in history with a focus on public history. And in between all of that, one day as I was approaching the end of my bachelor's degree, I went and talked to one of my professors, Dr. Tebow, who ended up being a critical mentor of mine during my time at ASU. I went into his office and just asked him, hey, do you happen to know of any history opportunities in the Valley right now? And of course, this was in 2021, so there's still some picking up pieces from the COVID-19 pandemic. And he directed me to the Tempe History Museum, and I got in contact with one of the curators there, Josh Rothler, sorry. And I went, talked to him, and basically decided, I was just like, hey, is there any way I can get involved here? He's like, yeah, maybe we can start some kind of volunteer internship. And I got that going, and I started that in January of 2022. And then in July, I was going at a good pace, had a lot of momentum, and I was able to be hired on part-time in my current role as the collections assistant, which I have kept to this day. And there's been a lot of overlap with what I do and what I've learned at ASU, particularly during my graduate program, because I learned a lot about the importance of historical memory, landscape, community engagement and community presentation, shared authority. All those things come into play at my job with what I do, as I'm able to work hands-on with historical material and enter it into our database. So I have responsibility in presenting the stories of these items, artifacts, these photographs, and also the work I've done with a few exhibitions I've been able to be a part of. There was an exciting exhibition on Tempe business signs, which started this whole marketing photogenic street food in late 2023. That was kind of my big breakthrough. That was an awesome project. did really well. And then also recently, I was able to have a hand on an exhibition we currently have on local skateboarding, which runs until next January. So you all should check it out because it's really great. It got awarded as the best exhibition for 2025 by the Phoenix New Times. And it was really great because it was a community-driven and focused exhibition, looking at local skateboarding history and being able to work directly with former skaters and current skaters and being able to lean on their stories, their experiences to present a worthwhile story that probably wouldn't have been presented in the right way if we didn't do it that way. I also dabble in some marketing. Last year, I applied for an internship at my boyhood museum, the Arizona Museum of Natural History in Mesa. I'm a big dinosaur fan, so being able to do that was really great. And that went really well. I was able to stay on longer than my initial internship date. I appreciate them for allowing that. And in the end, I owe a lot to ASU because coming here and doing the things I did here set me up for success, and I wouldn't be in my current role if I didn't decide to speak to my professor. So I owe a lot to ASU.
Let's see, right now I work as a digital communications associate at the AE Comms at ASU. That's academic enrollment communications. Basically, we do a lot of the emails to, of course, try to get enrolled in ASU and some of that comms and things like that as well. And I also teach in an adjunct capacity at the Walter School of Mass Communication and Journalism. I mostly teach digital media literacy, but it's kind of floating around and some good stuff as well. I also owe like so much to ASU. I think I might be the only one here who actually did an online program. I did ASU online for my bachelor's, mass communication and media studies from. And that is a great program. It's also available on campus now, but back then it was online. I graduated May 2020, which, well, and so hit that job market running. But the online programs are really great. And I lived in New Mexico at that point. I moved to Arizona 2 years into my program, which was the right decision. I think ASU online is incredible, but I did get more opportunities by moving to Arizona and being part of the school proper, on campus, I should say. And then in 2021 is when I got hired at AE Comms. And one of the best parts about working at ASU is you get free tuition, basically. So I went back, got my master's in narrative studies at CISA, it's on campus. Most of those classes ended up online as well. No, it's a campus program, but it's a great program. And that opened up a lot because as with the master's you can teach, and I discovered how much I love teaching. So that is something I do now, thinking even about going forward for PhD work in the future, just because I discovered how much I love teaching. And I also, for my capstone in narrative studies, I did a podcast about food allergies. Food allergy, I have allergic to nuts. I have been my whole life. And there's a wonderful burgeoning field right now in health humanities. ASU is also pioneering a lot of that. And that's what that podcast was about. It was talking to other people with severe allergies, how that has influenced their life, how it influenced my life. And I love that project. That's something that I like briefly put on hold for a little bit to work on some other stuff that actually like paid me, but I intend to bring that back. That's almost like an open call. I am looking for guests. I am looking for people who want to be involved with that kind of work. All right. See, I lay the trap. I always get it. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. Does that answer your question?
That's great. So I'm going to say, here are some commonalities that I heard here. I would love to hear you, all of you, if you feel like I got it right and if there's more to add before we start to move on. So we started, Chad, you said storytelling, and I think storytelling is something that we really got into as an essential skill. Study of humanities really helps you to become a proficient storyteller. And then connected to that, almost everything that everyone said had to do with making connection. And it was connection with audiences, connection with people in the world, but connection that helped to move you into places sometimes that you didn't expect to be, but that ability somehow really helped you. And one of the things, many of the students from my English 300 are here, your degree in the world. One of the things I always emphasize to them is like, you're learning how to make your own luck, right? You're sowing as many seeds as possible. Some of them are going to grow. And a lot of that growth is through connection. Another thing that I really liked is that you all emphasized you looked for support. And for several of you, you're seeing it. Your professors are here in the audience today. They showed up because of the deep connection they feel with you. Again, this is something that I really want to emphasize for all our humanities majors here. Your professors are here for you. Do not be afraid to connect with them. Do not talk yourself out of that. It happens too often, but you can see what the benefit of it is. Another thing I really liked about everyone, you emphasized wide skills. That is, I think too many students and sometimes parents put pressure on them to do it, convince themselves that they should get a degree that is a profession. None of you did that. You wound up with degrees that are widely flexible. And as you articulate, you learned a lot of skills that helped you to go somewhere in the world. The other thing that I will note, I don't think this is true only for humanities majors, but it seems to me especially true of the humanities. You're also affirmative. It was not about how dire it is out there, how many challenges, but there's a certain joy in everything you spoke about what you've undertaken and what you've achieved. And I think that has served you well, served you all very well. What did I leave out? What more would you say, especially as you think about the fact that a main audience for what we're doing right now are people that are partway through their study or contemplating future humanities study. What else do you counsel as things you learned along the way that an 18 to 21-year-old, or honestly anyone contemplating study should be thinking about? And I'll leave that as an open question if anyone has some thoughts here.
Well, I think it can't be overstated how versatile the humanities degree is, whatever that degree may be. And to your point about, some of these degrees that are the profession, that leaves you in such a narrow view when interviewing for even that profession. A lot of what people are looking for when they're interviewing you for a position is not just experience in that field, but life experience. And if you can't tell the story of your own life, you can't get the job that you're looking for. So I tell people at my work, when I help interview someone that's going into my role, I see a lot of people with accounting degrees. I see a lot of people sometimes with engineering degrees, and they struggle to explain what they learned in class. Sometimes they tell you, well, it's much easier if I have the Excel open. If you could quiz me on what I know, then I can prove I can do the job. And it's tough to explain to someone that has such a narrow field in that way, that actually what you'll be doing is not proving you can do it on a spreadsheet, but talking about that spreadsheet to someone who can't do it. And you need to be able to explain what it is that you're doing to someone in order for them to trust you to do that role, in order for them to understand what it is that you're doing for them. So it is really indispensable that you have some sort of background, if not the major itself in humanities, some of those classes that are under your belt.
That's beautifully said.
I think to your point, when we were going through that question of money, right? Like, presumably we all want a paycheck. and I think it helps. It makes life a little bit easier. And I think when I had a really hard time in undergrad and went in and out of community colleges, I didn't finish till I was 25 because my dad had told me that I needed to get a degree in like biomechanical engineering or something like that, that like I needed to get a vocation. That was what it was that like, and when I was in and out of college, he was like, why don't you just become an electrician? And so I was kind of raised in an environment that was, I didn't even know you could get a degree in creative writing. And so I flailed in college because I did not want to be a biomechanical engineer, and I wasn't good at the classes that required it. And so what I've come to understand is, in my experience, that question of like, can you get a job? Can you get a paycheck? Is like, it's not directly linked to degree to job that is written on pay stub, but the job is there. And you would be surprised how many jobs are looking for people who can tell that story, for people who, even in marketing, right? If we're talking about like a content marketing job, AI can make content that can be marketed. I could do it on ChatGPT right now, but AI can't give us like the thing that's really going to capture like person to person, the thing that's gonna, through a phone screen, gonna stop somebody's scroll, right? And so even down to the stuff that is like the most sort of capturable by artificial intelligence or any other thing that we think of as like a technology that's going to supersede some kind of skill, that when it comes down to it, you know, companies need people to engage with them. Outside of that, nonprofits need people to engage with them. Media outlets need people to engage with them. If you can't meet that request in a busy world where we're all stuck in our phones, then like you're not doing that job, whether your degree has that written on it or not. So there's money to be had, I suppose.
One thing I'd like to say is be open-minded. I think that's one thing we get really, really focused. We get on a track, right? You've got your sheet from your advisor that says you should be doing this, 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 and this, but don't be afraid to deviate from that because you never know what you're going to find. I knew nothing about podcasting, local delivery, nothing about it. And I thought, you know what? Why not? Did the editing part make me want to cry? Actually, I did cry. I'm not gonna say it made me cry because I'm not the most technical person, but I got through it, right? And I ended up loving it. I love the process. I love the script writing. I love actually doing it. I loved interviewing people for the episodes that I had to create. And it's pushed me in a direction where I use that in the classroom. And I also had the confidence to audition to be a color commentator, which I love, which is so fun. And it just gives you that kind of well-rounded experiences that you can talk about in an interview because, you know, to use an old phrase, you don't want to be a one-trick pony, right? You want to have some things to pull out of your pocket. Oh yeah, I've experienced this. I've done this. When I was at ASU, even though I was way older than a lot of the students, in fact, most of them could be my children that I was sitting next to in class, which was great because I enjoyed their perspective, just like I enjoy my students' perspective. But I tried everything. I said yes, even if I didn't have any idea how to do it, even if I had no idea where it was going to take me. I went on a study abroad. I did it for a week. I went to Germany. It was fantastic. Loved it. Experience was fantastic. And I was traveling with people who were my children. And sometimes I had to act like their mother. But I was a literary editor on some magazines here at ASU, Kenyon Voices, Hayden's Ferry Review. I said yes to it. I said yes because I wanted to get that experience. And all of that is pushing me in a direction. I'm getting my works published more often now because of the skills that I learned from being an editor, right? So don't be afraid. Even if it's scary, it's probably where you need to go. That's probably what you need to do.
Anyone else want to add to that? Other things that they would suggest as things for younger people to keep in mind embracing?
I'll just back up. It was said by a couple of, you definitely said it, someone else said it. Talk to your professors. I'm speaking as myself with what I'm about to say, even though I work here. The good ones want you to. They want to hear from you. They want to work with you. They love teaching. The good ones want you to talk to them. So please utilize them. You are paying a lot of money to be here. Take advantage.
Yeah, I'll back that up. I mean, two of my professors are here now, and I bothered the hell out of them when I was an undergrad. And I think I looked like a Martian because I was one of the few students who would bother you in office hours. And I thought it was great that I had these experts in my field who were willing to listen to me. You know, I didn't know anything about Italian literature, Dante. I mean, who the hell, you know? But to have that, it was so empowering to the fact that they were making time for me, it was incredible. So yeah, absolutely, take advantage of that and just chase that high. I mean, that's really all I've been doing ever since I got out of school. I mean, it was such a moment, such a period of flourishing for me here, where I really wasn't thinking ahead at all. I was only thinking about studying and having fun with it, and I was so passionate about, you know, that Federico Fellini movie or that Italo Calvino book or that Monet painting. I mean, it was such nourishment for my soul that by the time I graduated from here, it was like I was an addict. It was like, how do I keep paying for this high? And I mean, it also, the tools I got here at school really equipped me to think outside the box. You know, really. I mean, I didn't have a trade per se, but I did have access. I mean, I was exposed to all these great thinkers, you know, not just my professors and my colleagues, my fellow classmates, all these, you know, intellectuals and artists and thinkers throughout history who somehow made it work. All of these people I admired weren't in it for the money, you know. I mean, they just were in it for life, you know. That was, they really didn't have a choice about it. This is what they signed up for. And, you know, it trains you. This degree in humanities really does train you to seize what transcends a paycheck. That's it. And you got to figure out how to make money out of it, I suppose. But I always kind of just seized that high, and then the money seemed to follow.
But speaking of the paycheck, I'm just gonna say, piggybacking on both Chad and Chris's ideas here, is that my current position I found through an old instructor of mine in history and American. They reached out to me, and it's because of the relationship that I had built with her and I had built with some people on campus that allowed me to have that foot in the door to be able to get into this position. So sometimes it really is about who you know. It really is. And right now I use them to the point I feel like they're sponges and I'm just wringing them, right? I mean, it is all about collaboration. It is all about, you know, what am I doing here? What can I do? What can I do differently? And what's interesting about that, and what is flattering and surprising, is that, you know, they tell me, oh, I didn't think of it that way, or that's a really great idea. I'm going to try that in my class. So it works two ways. Absolutely. It works both ways. And so it's so important. The connection is, it's just so important. You know, I have it. I'm such a nerd and a professor that I wrote little talking points and notes on here, but I wrote widen your circle. And it's so true. Professors, just people on campus, classmates, you have no idea who you'll be able to help and who might be able to lend a helping hand to you later on.
I mean, you were going to say something.
Oh, yeah, well, piggybacking off a little bit is, I got my position, I believe I am where I am because I had a professor who was in an online class, her name was Dr. Christy Roschke, and she has since gone to Vanderbilt, you know, so, but she is just an amazing person. I was in her digital media literacy class. I did good work. She saw that. I reached out to her. We formed a relationship. When I moved here, she had a position open, a student worker job, for an internship at something called the News Collab, Zach Conte. And she basically made, I believe the position was only for one person. She hired someone else and me. She basically made a job for me because I communicated with her. Because yes, I was doing good work, and that is a prerequisite. But the important thing is to do the good work and then tell somebody about it. And then be really connected with those people. When I teach, if a student emails me or they come to my office hours, anything like that, do you know who I remember? That person. I remember them. And it's like, especially in an online environment, there's more and more online classes these days. They want to connect with you. I absolutely promise. They want to give you as many opportunities as possible. Have to reach out and get them though.
Aubrey, anything to add?
Well, I would say, like, to echo a lot of what's been said. I mean, I was just thinking about what I did at Mesa. So that was, I mean, well, that in itself was an example of me branching a little out of my comfort zone per se, because going to that museum, of course, it wasn't immediately the same as what I was doing at my other museum. certainly because it was a new museum environment in itself, being natural history compared to more community city history that I do at my regular current museum right now. I was thinking of on the long lines of when I applied for that internship, I was gunning for paleontology because I just wanted any excuse to work with and around prehistoric life and dinosaurs in particular. So I went for that and I did my presentation. It was kind of hilarious because I walk into the room where we were doing it, and it's like all the curators and basically all the higher ups. I'm like, oh, I did not expect all of you to be in here. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, all right, time to lock in and do this. And I did, and I just exuded a certain energy because the marketing supervisor was like, hey, I like this kid for marketing. I want him for marketing. And so they reached out and they're like, hey, Aubrey, would you be interested in doing marketing? I'm like, yeah, let's do it, you know? So I guess what I'm getting at is, if something goes in a slightly different path than you might have envisioned, don't walk away from it. Because I could have easily been like, well, you know, marketing, I'm not trying to do that. I just wanted to do what I had in mind, and I'm not really going to spend my time doing that. No, it's better to, as what's been said, keep an open mind. You know, like make your own opportunity, make your own luck. And in the sense, I embraced something new, and it ended up being very valuable to me. I was able to add to my skill set, and certainly I've been able to take what I've learned through that marketing internship back to the Tempe History Museum, because now I'm kind of the primary social media guy for the Tempe History Museum as well. So I guess that was the main thing I was gonna get at. I think there might have been another thing, but I forgot what it is. So
It's a good point. So one more question, and this one's gonna be as a lightning round because I want to get to audience questions. Here's something I've been thinking about a lot in relation to what it means to succeed. I think a lot issue. I love our charter. You know, we're judged not by whom we exclude, but by whom we include and how they succeed. I think a thing we haven't thought enough about, but humanities majors think deeply about, is what that success actually means. Too often when people talk about higher education, it is equated to what paycheck do you get upon graduation. And that seems to me the most meager measure of success possible. In fact, it's completely impoverished because it's not really about beyond a certain level of having a comfortable life, right? That can't just be what success is. How fat is your paycheck? If you had to think about it, and this is a very personal question, and I will ask you to be brief, what does success mean to you? What does success mean to you? And maybe we could start with you, Quinlan, and we'll go down this way. Fine.
I've been thinking about that a lot, you know, just being where I'm at in my career. I can ask that question in different points in your life. You graduate and do a different job, and then maybe when you job a few years, you know, you sort of keep asking. But for me, that definition has developed, and it's work that feels meaningful to me on a personal level. Am I using my talents in a way that feels fulfilling to me on a personal level? And am I using those talents to help others along with theirs? That is just something that I personally am very passionate about. Am I putting something of good and something of use? I don't think everyone has to like do it just in that way. It's just like, I think that's important.
So said, Aubrey?
well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so I guess I would say like, okay, personally, because I have a sports background. I mean, I was very like competitive when I was younger, and I played sports. I played baseball at first, and then I played soccer for a long time. And I guess, I mean, I do have a knack for measuring success in like material manner. I certainly enjoy, achievements that I get personally, individually. I enjoy achievements that my institutions get that I'm a part of. I certainly enjoy those things. But from a different perspective, I certainly enjoy just being a part of exciting projects and being able to contribute in ways that is worthwhile to me. For example, the exhibits I've been able to work on at the Tamushi Museum, I take a lot of pride in being able to be someone valuable alongside more experienced colleagues that rely on me and need me to be able to make the project be fulfilled in its final form and way that it's produced. Primarily, I was a label writer, so I certainly took a lot of pride in being able to fulfill that role for my colleagues and for the museum. And also, again, kind of what I was saying about like the marketing and social media stuff, that being a new way that I could apply myself to the museums I work at. Because certainly, when I was working at the Mason Museum, I mean, I had the mindset of just I wanted to do whatever I could to contribute because that was a museum that meant a lot to me when I was younger. So when I was there, I just wanted to have the mindset, I'm going to try to make the most of this. I want to be someone that, you know, made a difference, was able to do something meaningful here. And so being able to do that with marketing, and then thus I was able to check a childhood box. I mean, multiple, because I was able to work there for a time. I was able to work along with dinosaurs in some way. I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was younger, just because I love dinosaurs so much. And so being able to do it in a different way was worthwhile to me and meaningful. So I think in the end, I guess what I would say is like on a more, I guess, like more philosophical level, because sure, I mean, I won't shy away from accolades. They're nice. I feel good about them. But certainly, get a little bit of this guy. No, I'm just kidding. No, but like I certainly do like enjoy knowing like, hey, you know, I made a difference like in this manner that showed, hey, you know, what I did, you know, meant something. I do enjoy knowing that that was the case.
Nicely put, Sharon.
Let me really brief. Doing what I like to do and having a positive impact on others.
Success was meeting my wife, Lisa, who might be watching right now. No.
Yeah, I figured she's watching, but you know.
It's funny. It's after 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
After that, no, and I would not have met her if I hadn't done what I did at ASU. She was an art history major, and we both met at the Peggy Guggenheim collection in Venice. So there you
Oh,
go.
that's insanely romantic.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it's but like spending more time than not doing things that feel enriching for my life, meaning like doing things that expand my understanding of the world that I live in, that are a part of like my creative practices, that are ways to spend time with my family and if I am spending more time doing that work than I am looking at spreadsheets and being able to put food on the table, then like that's pretty good. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. You know, professional success to me looks like being a reliable, dependable person for your coworkers or anyone else that needs your help. But a subset of that professional success is to be able to be good enough to put it away at the end of the day and have some personal life and success there.
What am I supposed to do with this? Like, no, I think it really is an amalgamation of everything that has been said. Doing fulfilling work that enriches you, helps someone else, and allows you to do better things. That's really great. I will say one other thing, that it's not about me. It's just an example of this. I think about our new medical school that we're building and how the charge behind that is really to help the state of Arizona have the kind of medical support it needs so that our community is okay. Like, that's next level stuff. You know, we're not just coming up with a degree program. Like, we really are trying to make the community a better place. So I think that's an example of the kind of things out there too.
I love how you all integrated simultaneously, like working toward a better world, making things better for other people, but also, and I think this is really important, living a satisfying life where you feel like you can be there partners, for family, for others. And again, I think that holistic approach doesn't get talked about enough, but it's so important to, I think, a grounded idea of what success means. All right, we've got a couple minutes left. If anyone here would like to ask any questions of our panelists, yes, go right ahead.
I have a question, Sharon. I'm not an English major and I'm interested in becoming an English teacher. What is the path to look like for you?
Well, my degrees were English with creative writing, so shocker. And then narrative studies was my master's. So interestingly enough, there was no education in there at all, right? You think to be a teacher, you need to have an education degree. That's not necessarily the case. But they do want you to have skills and talent and degrees in the area that you're going to be teaching. So if you are an English literature major and then you go on to do more English lit in your master's, you would be qualified at this point to teach at community college because you have those skills behind you. And it's so interesting because I didn't have that education background, and don't do this yourself, but because I didn't have the education background, I shied away from it. I was like, oh, I'm not good enough to teach. I don't know enough to do that, right? And it was only when that instructor reached out to me and said, hey, I know you've talked about maybe wanting to teach, that I really gave it some thought. And when I got down to it, I'm like, I do know, not to brag, but I do know some stuff, right? And especially the students that are coming to me, they don't have a lot of those skills. I can be of help to them. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
That's a great answer. What else? Who else? Yeah, go right ahead.
Actually, I have two quick questions. One, Aubrey, what's the best dinosaur? Two, for a second. Two, for anybody, how do you think AI is? Your jobs for.
And I'm trying to keep it positive, so I'm going to just.
All right, excuse me, the best dinosaur is obviously.
The best is my favorite.
Aren't they the same?
He's mine, probably.
I mean, hey, look. I mean, becoming older, hey, there's other cool giant theropods other than Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm just saying, Carcharodontosaurus is pretty awesome, a long name, shark lizard, bigger than T-Rex, dominated prehistoric Africa. That's my
All right, well, aspirations. So AI, quickly, anyone have thoughts? I know this is an endless topic, right?
Yeah, I will say, for those of you who don't know, ASU is moving full forward with it. We are a partner with OpenAI. I would say the university is doing a really good job of giving units, so in my case, the library, but each individual college or school, opportunities to sort of figure out how it can work for us. We just barely had a conversation the other day, one of our library meetings, talking about, is it our responsibility to train users on how to use it responsibly when they come in and ask for help, right? If somebody comes in to me and asks a question, we're teaching them how to find the answer. Yes, we're also helping them. We have lots of different ways to do that. Should AI be one of them? Where do we draw guardrails? It is sort of a work in progress. And it's an open question, but I do think the most important thing I would say is we can't just ignore it and hope it goes away. It is here. So we have to figure it out.
Definitely being used on the marketing side. And I will agree, we've sort of been given the opportunity to kind of figure out how it's going to work department to department, but it is definitely the drive is figure it out and figure out what it looks like. I personally have drawn up a charter for my department so that we can use it responsibly and things like that. And we're trying to figure it out. We've also all acknowledged, at least within my department, that it's still very much growing and it's still very much sort of in its infancy. And so it's really important to be on the ground floor so that you control sort of where it goes rather than letting other people kind of run away from it, tell you what. So that's the compromise we found.
Chris, has there been an impact on broadcast journalism from AI?
Yeah, I mean, so we have an AI council at CBS News. I'm a part of that, and that's an opportunity where we're just kind of, spitballing ideas, we're brainstorming, sharing the ways that different bureaus and different types of journalists, from correspondents to producers to, you name it, are experimenting. Editorially, it doesn't have any place at CBS News. Editorially, everything has to be generated by a human. But so long as it's a force multiplier, meaning if I can use it for research, I say use it or it's going to use you. I mean, that's kind of my approach to it. I often work in isolation just by virtue of being based in Rome and not having a massive bureau that I work. I'm kind of by myself most of the time. And so I'll be getting ready for a hit, as we call it, about to go live, and I have an idea of what the anchor is going to ask me. And it's just an example of how I like to apply it. I can tell the AI, I can tell ChatGPT or whichever, and say, okay, you're going to be Maurice Dubois, you're going to be Laura O'Donnell. Like, they know who that anchor is that I'm going to talk to. This is what they're going to talk to me about. So name the conflict. Let's say it's the war in Ukraine. Pepper me with questions that they might ask me, and I can rehearse. I can have a dress rehearsal about what that's going to be. I find that to be a very, very good use of AI. I don't find that to be a breach of editorial standards. It's it's just prepping me for my live hit. It's making me a better journalist, a better correspondent in that moment than I would have been otherwise. Of course, there are all kinds of heinous uses for it as well that would be considered plagiarism. So that's like the goal at CBS, and I'm sure institutions around the country, finding out how we use it to become a force multiplier and not something that corrupts journalism. So,
Are you going to say something?
Because I haven't used AI at my current job at the Termination Museum, but I did briefly use it during my internship at the Mason Museum. It was a little strange just because for brief context, it was the second part of my internship. I was helping with initial development and setting up stage of a new website that they're going to put up soon for that museum around this time. It should be going up probably next month, I would assume, with the way the timeline was. But it was funny because there's this one day my supervisor was like, okay, Aubrey, we need to make a project timeline. And I'm like, okay. And so so I was a little unsure how I was going to go about actually physically making it, because at that point I was primarily working on spreadsheets, and I'm just like, so how am I supposed to do this? And my supervisor was like, well, you can use ChatGPT and to help you with this. And I'm like, okay, but it ended up kind of being a wild goose chase where the math just was not happening because I have the data and it's like I'm trying it, and then it's like ChatGPT will just poop out a timeline that's just not at all what I'm looking for. It's just like you got to be very specific down to the letter of what you're wanting, because I'm just kind of make me a timeline, and then it's like, oh, there's no axes there, the data's all over the place. So I'm talking to my supervisor, and then eventually it was getting to the point where he was kind of like, okay, let me just kind of see about this. I'm just and then I ended up making 10 distinct timelines that only one of them was kind of close to what I wanted, but even then it wasn't what we were looking for. And because it was so annoying, because I think around the 6th try I got that one, and I'm like, okay, slightly change the prompt to fix it, and then it would just completely ruin the timeline. And I'm just like, what is going on, chat? This is not supposed to be happening. So
you are also observing something that we keep hearing from employers, which is that humanities majors make excellent prompt engineers, because it is a humanities discussion that happens to get to the result that you're moving towards. If you're trained as an engineer, you don't actually have special access to doing that. All right, we have time for maybe one more quick question. Somebody wants to take us home with a question that's on your mind. Yeah.
It's a bit of a biased question, but where do you think humanities majors are lacking? What skill areas are we lacking compared to, say, STEM majors? Or
I'll answer with an example. So in my previous position at ASU, I was working with a particular collection at the library, and we had to move it. We were supposed to move it from this part of the building to this part of the building. And my supervisor was like, yeah, we're going to have to come up with a diagram and measurements and this math. And I was like, no, I got nothing. I cannot help you with this. My brain does not work that way, like seriously. So that's where I personally am lacking. You know, if you give me a story or a qualitative question, I can totally shoot it with you, but ask me to sort of like measure things and get real detailed with math and out. I can't do that. So that's where I'm lacking personally. Not everyone is.
I'd say.
I think, going back to the sort of broad skill sets, finding their way into positions that aren't the word that's on their degree, right? Like I have 2 creative writing degrees. My first professional job was in marketing. If you asked me on my first day what a KPI was, I would have been like, huh? I don't know, right? And so I think, where like the thing that you land in, there might be slightly more of like the driveway up to that knowledge that maybe somebody who had gone to a marketing program would already know that. But once you're on the other side of that logistical information, that's, I think, where that transformation of the humanities degree happens. Because the other thing that humanities students are great at is they have learned how to learn. It's not just the ingesting of course content and then the like disbursement of it, right? Like humanities students know how to take a concept and twist it around and do their research and apply it elsewhere, right? So we just have to later do that process in learning some basics.
Perhaps as we're being taken over by robots, humanity, really, people in humanities understand what it means to be human. I mean, to retain our humanity. That might sound cheesy, but I think that's something we're really going to be grappling with more and more with AI.
So, right. Quinlan?
I think humanities majors can fall into that trap that we were talking about before with other majors, which is they can get too laser focused on one thing. So I would always say diversify. That's what you're good at. Like that's what we're all good at as humanities majors. I would say always diversify. I had my bachelor's in like the mass comm, which is like very nebulous. Like you can do a lot with that. Okay, I added a minor in digital audiences, which gave me that marketing KPI stuff. I would say if you have anything, the more you're interested in, add it on. Add minors, add double majors, add everything. And that will give you the best chance of being able to find a job, work in a field you love because you have those different skills.
I love it. And one of my takeaways from this very ending too, is that what serves humanities majors well is that we are in fields that reward endless curiosity, right? So much to learn. And also they're for learners. And as long as you're devoted to learning throughout your life, you never go wrong. Well, everyone, please join me in thanking today's presenters.